Get off your ass and start retraining right now.
Because it's probably going to happen. If it's not the trade war, it's going to be AI. And if it's not that, it's going to be something else. So get in a position that it's going to be good.
The public isn't even aware of what's happening in the precious metal sector. Those high net worth individuals are not only piling into precious metals and other assets like that, but they're also piling into private REITs, real estate investment trusts. So they're still seeing the opportunity of putting their capital to work. Yes, it looks like real estate prices are going to the moon and all the rest of it, but it really is the devalue and the devaluation and decoupling of fiat currency. Hence, we see what's going on in the gold market. But it's a statement of what's going on, a global macro.
Well, I love this because this is perfect. Let's get into this.
We have to look at what's going on economically. You know, when we talk about real estate and we talk about the opportunities of investing in real estate, we have to look at why. Right now, when I talk to many realtors, when I talk to mortgage brokers, when I talk to individuals who are in the industry overall, their real estate investor business, those individuals coming in to grow a portfolio, is down 90%, some of them are saying. And actually, a couple of them have they've gone off the rails in terms of they're not even paying attention to investors. There are no investors to pay attention to. We see it within the real estate investment network. We see it within the trusted partners that are there saying, gosh, nobody's looking at investing in real estate, of course, unless you're in Alberta. We can get to that conversation in a minute. Here's the thing about it, is we look at all of the news that's coming at us, and ultimately we have to create some thesis, because we're not only talking about how do we take and where are the opportunities within the chaos, but then we also have to say, okay, well, we are wanting to make money, but we're also wanting to preserve wealth. So when we look at what the economic conditions are, we have to make decisions based on that. We've got a stock exchange that, for the most part, depending on, the big seven are melting down, or whatever they're called, the Mag 7, they're coming off the rails. The stock market in general, the Dow, S&P, NASDAQ are all down, very volatile. So ultimately, and I shine a light on this all the time because it's an indicator. It is the canary in the coal mine, and that is gold. So when we look at gold hitting all-time highs, and I believe silver is going to follow, why is that an issue? Because gold is a safe haven. It really is considered money. So when we look at the high net worth investors, when we look at what central banks are doing, it hasn't even got into the retail world yet, by the way, JG. Like, the public isn't even aware of what's happening in the precious metal sector. Now, the significance of this and the importance of this is that is what's happening on a global macroeconomic scale. All central banks around the world are loading up in gold, except for Canada, by the way, no surprise. But ultimately, that is the flight to safety. Now, having said all of that, we're also seeing high net worth individuals get into the real estate world. And we've been talking about this for at least, I'm going to say, close to 2 years, where those high net worth individuals are not only piling into precious metals and other assets like that, but they're also piling into private REITs, real estate investment trusts. So they're still seeing the opportunity of putting their capital to work. Now, part of this, without getting long-winded, which I often do around fiat currency, decoupling, devaluing of fiat currency, we're in this illusion that our assets are going up. Nothing has become more apparent than over the past 5 years, where we start to realize that, yes, it looks like real estate prices are going to the moon and all the rest of it, but it really is the devalue and the devaluation and decoupling of fiat currency. Hence, we see what's going on in the gold market. But it's a statement of what's going on, a global macro, as we look at Russia and Ukraine not coming to an end anytime soon. You've got trade war between China and the US. And then on top of that, you got the US saber rattling, actually threatening Iran. And that could literally turn into a full-scale third world war. And if you want to listen to somebody else talk, some guys, by the way, some people, JG, they're going, no, we've already started a third world war. All of this is happening. So if you look at it and you go, okay, well, what do I do? Maybe the smart thing to do is nothing. But having said that, you have to look at your own financial situation and say, man, how do I get my fiat currency, my dollars to work? because they're disintegrating if they're sitting in the bank. So
in
that's
what world, in two things, Patrick. Number one is you said about 18 minutes ago that sometimes you happen to get long-winded. I've been able to cut in for 18 minutes because you've been on this tirade. I was gonna call it a rant, but it's more of a tirade, that one. But let's talk about something. I want to come back to a couple of things you said, but let's talk about one thing you just said, which is for some people the best thing to do is nothing. Can you give me an example, Patrick, where that might be right? Because there most often, and I'm not saying that in every situation it's not right, but I'm saying 80-90% of the time doing nothing is not typically a good thing. And I think there's a lot of people that like to sit on their hands and blame these distractions and end up doing nothing. And in 5 years, Patrick, how many people do you and I know that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, oh man, I was going to invest in real estate. I was going to buy that condo one time. But there was this thing in the 2000s. It was called Y2K. So I didn't pull the trigger then. And then it was this other thing called the dot-com crash. And I didn't pull the trigger then. And then it was this other thing that happened in the US. And then I didn't pull the trigger then. And then it was the great financial crisis. And I didn't pull the trigger then. And they never end up pulling the trigger because they want to do nothing. So I'm pretty passionate about this. Give me an example of when it's good to do nothing. I'm not saying this net doesn't exist, but it's not very often.
JG, you're living in your high net worth world, and so you have concerns. But I'm just gonna point something out: is that you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you read, you act, you're going to do whatever you need to do because you have the wherewithal and the view of the world that allows you to do that. So in other words, you go, okay, this isn't making money. I'll go over here and make money over here. I'll go over here and make money. I'll figure shit out because that's how you're wired. What I'm speaking to is there's a lot of individuals out there right now that literally don't know if they're going to have a job, that literally are afraid that they're going to lose half their household income because one of the spouses are going to get laid off or lose a job. So there is a time where we have to look at it and say, okay, well, real estate's a fair play. We know it's a great game to play. You get to leverage capital and all the rest of it. It becomes a liquidity issue for most. I'm not even going to say many. I'm going to say most. And that's what keeps them sitting on their hands.
I'm on board with you. Number one, you said we're going to debate this one. I love this because this is perfect. Let's get into this. This is good topic.
I'm just going to tell you right now, you're wrong.
Yeah, we've been down that road before. But so let's talk about a couple of things. Number one, you said I'm wired that way, right? If this isn't working, I'm going to go there. If this isn't working, I'm going to go there. I'm going to try these different things. You said I'm wired that way. Number one, first and foremost, I didn't come out of the chute this way. I wired myself this way. So everyone can be wiring themselves this way. That's something they can do while standing still if they want. That's something they can do. Now, if somebody is at threat, and listen, there's a lot of people that are feeling threatened that their jobs are going to be taken or whatever the case may be. Perfect. Get off your ass and start retraining right now because it's probably going to happen. If it's not the trade war, it's going to be AI. And if it's not that, it's going to be something else. So get in a position that it's going to be good. Patrick, you and I have made moves in the last year getting ready for this stuff, and doing nothing hasn't been on the list.
No. It's actually looking for, okay, what do I got to do? Not I'm going to do nothing. That's for sure.
So then I rest my case. Doing nothing is not a good option. And if somebody's thinking they should do nothing, I highly encourage them to call Patrick Francie. Patrick, put your phone number on the screen now. If you think you should do nothing, call Patrick and he'll tell you how that's probably not a wise idea. I really don't think doing nothing, Patrick, is a good idea for most people. They got to be doing a whole lot more because they just keep using the next thing as an excuse to do nothing. It's an epidemic, the doing nothing epidemic. You heard it here on this show first.
I don't know where the hell we're going with this conversation. So you're right. I mean, it is a case of let's reflect on this a little bit. When it comes to putting capital to work or wanting to leverage your capital, it can become a liquidity issue. In other words, it may not be smart financially to invest in anything right now for you if liquidity is an issue. In the audience that we hope to speak to and what we want to get through to people is that through the chaos, real estate investors who keep their nose to the grindstone, keep looking for deals, stay educated, stay on top of what's going on economically, look at the data in whatever region you might be investing in. you're going to see opportunities show up that you can actually take advantage of to grow and maintain your financial net worth. That's kind of it. What we know and what we're distracted by is all the freaking bad news headlines, and we don't look behind them, or we don't look into where is the opportunity within those bad news headlines. I guess really that's what I'm saying around all of this. But some people are going to have to say, no, I can't take the risk. I'm not willing to take the risk. That's a decision. That's all I'm saying.
But that's a different decision than doing nothing. That's very different than doing nothing. That's making an intentional decision. I agree. There's stuff that I've been wanting to do, that make decisions and investments and so on and so forth, that I've decided, no, now's not the right time. Let's just put that one on pause. Let's reevaluate that in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever the case may be. So I agree with that, Patrick. Now,
so if you like these episodes and you want to learn more about what's going on with real estate in Canada, investing in real estate, and understanding how to invest in real estate the right way, head on down to the descriptions below. Follow those links.